Hey, what's up? It's Lerald, and we've got great news. GGG has heard the cries of 10,000 complaining voices, including ours, and they've taken action sooner rather than later. Next week, we are getting a huge revamp to the entire in-game system, which is pretty great. Unfortunately for us, we spent yesterday putting together a pretty detailed video about how to roll maps and towers and tablets correctly in order to maximize profits and maps. We were going to put that out today instead of this video, but it's dead now, you're never going to see it. I mean, not really, we're just going to retool it next week once we get a chance to play around with the revamped version of the end game. And so this video is going to kind of be two parts. First, it's a breakdown of the excellent changes that are coming next week, and second will be a very short Cliff Notes version of how to set up and run Waystones and Towers right now, just in case things wind up actually getting nerfed or at least buffed less than we hope, and maybe you want to kind of get some currency now while the getting is good. So let's get into it, but first be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join our Discord as well, we're over 1,300 members and still growing strong. We're also streaming both here and on Twitch occasionally, and we reached affiliate over on the Twitch account within the past week, so check that out as well. Links in the description. You know how the internet works. Do it. Okay, so let's start with the preliminary notes. Awesome thumbnail on the official announcement video too. Tower is gone. Technically they're not. They actually are still going to exist. What's up, J-Dog? Towers will still exist, but they'll no longer be the method by which you put tablets into your maps. Now tablets are actually going to have a number of charges on them. I think they showed in the video some tablets that had something like 10 or 13 charges. Here we go. 10 uses remaining, and so each map that you use tablets on, they chew up a use, and, when they hit 0, they disappear, right? So obviously what this means is because towers are no longer going to exist, you're not going to have to look around the map looking for tower overlaps, which is a great change. Like, that's been one of the most irritating things about the end game. The downside is, of course, if you're not going to have tower overlaps, that means you're not going to have situations where you're having 3 or 4 towers overlapping a single map, giving you access to like 9 or 12 tablets at once. This means that tablet bonuses need to be increased, and as we can see in very small, blurry font there in this little thumbnail here, 32% increased gold found in maps, 88% increased chance to contain shrines, right? So if we just kind of look at that compared to PoE 2 DB, the amount of gold that you get from a standard tablet prefix now is like 10 to 15% increased, and the chance to have a shrine, strongbox, etc. is like 30 to 50%. So with those numbers being like 32 and 88, it looks like they're doubling a lot of the values, or maybe even more than doubling, but more like tripling in some of these cases. And so that means more or less if you're running, I think on average, if you're running a 6 mod map, you're basically getting the equivalent of somewhere between like 2 and 3 tower overlaps kind of all the time. There might be some rebalancing that happens in there as well, but that's pretty good. That's kind of the goal, right? Is 3 tower overlaps is like pretty reasonably attainable, and that's definitely preferred. Thank you to Blizzard for letting me know that Mop Classic is playable. Not interested. Now, there are several other things that are happening in addition to this, and they've actually given us some more information down here in the main post about this, a lot more information than they just gave us in the initial YouTube video. And one thing that I'm actually kind of surprised, but like pleasantly surprised to see, is that alchemy orbs are going to be reworked to actually work on magic items, and they will turn the magic item into a rare with 4 new random modifiers, which I think means that means it won't take it from 2 mod magic item up to a 6 mod rare. Maybe that's how it is supposed to read, but I think it just like re-rolls it so that it's a 4 mod rare item. Maybe whichever way that I'm reading this is going to be good for map rolling. It'll either give you like more of a use for alchemy orbs and very quickly jump you up to 4 mods on a map. And generally speaking, because the way that tablets are going to work is similar to the way that towers already currently work, where you want to run 6 mod maps on your towers in order to get 3 tablets. Same thing is going to be the same type of deal in mapping in PoE 2 after the patch. I think this means you're still going to have to exalt your map twice, or exalt it once and desecrate it, but like that still cuts some costs down, But if this jumps you up from a 1 or 2 mod item up to a 5 or 6 mod item, like it actually adds 4 mods, then that's really good. But only for maps, right? Because like just random crappy mods onto a magic item, that now becomes a rare item with a bunch of garbage mods, it's like still worthless. So it's at least a useful function for alchemy orbs. So we did get a couple of example modifiers here as well that they're showing us with the changes to tablets. Collectors, the rarity mod is going to go from 7 to 10% up to 10 to 30. So somewhere between like 2 to 3 times as much value out of this. And then teaming, the magic mod is going from 15 to 25 up to 25 to 70, so about 1.5 to 2.5 times stronger. So we don't really know what's happening with quantity. You know, right now it's 3 to 7%, which is obviously like 3% increased stuff is not a lot. But with like 9 towers overlapping, that's like 49% increased quality or quantity. And then there's a chance, because of the Atlas passive tree, a lot of the bonuses in the tree that apply to like precursor tablet effect and the chance for double effect, you know, you can get well over 100% quantity out of fully stacking quant tabs. And so we don't really know, you know, quant tabs may wind up being like nerfed relative to rarity and like rare monster tabs. I kind of would like that. I think that'd be more fun. Like quantities, obviously, it's good to get more stuff to drop, but it is more fun to kill more rare monsters. So it would be cool if there were a little bit more parity, because right now you really only want quantity on all of your tablets, and it's a little boring. They're also adding more of the summoning circle support, which I had forgotten what summoning circles even were, but it's those little like circles full of rocks that you click the 3 rocks and then a boss spawns and then the boss dies instantly. There's going to be more of those, not a huge deal. Now, something that they talked about in the video but didn't actually put into this post here, at least as far as I could tell, is that map bosses are going to be in every single map from now on. So the completion requirement for every map is to kill the map boss rather than just killing all the rares. I think that's going to feel better. I don't know, killing all the rares kind of felt like I was farming the pit back in Diablo 2 like 20-something years ago, so I think that's kind of a nice change. There's also going to be like a new mod on maps that will indicate like a difficult map boss. Don't really know what the difference is. I think they're just going to have more toughness and higher like reward, like just more quantity and rarity, so that'll be good. Because of that, it does seem like the boss tree up here is probably going to get some reworks. If it doesn't, I think this bonus Beyond Reality will probably be less valuable than taking both Fit for a King and Spoils of War. You know, if you're getting increased rarity and quantity on map bosses, and every single map boss, or every single map has a boss in it, I think that's going to wind up being better. But again, you know, that's something we'll figure out once we've had a chance to play around with it next week and kind of see. Maybe they rework this chance to have corruption in the maps. You know, who knows? As I've said, they are going to change a number of nodes around the Atlas tree to account for some of the changes that are happening. Hopefully that's like pretty aggressive. We do have some sample Atlas passive trees that I'll talk about here in a second. You know, a lot of them do just kind of go after Waystone mod effect, which is like kind of a boring stat. It's actually a super boring stat, and it would be nice to have some of these things like essences or strong boxes or whatever be like more competitive alternatives. I think that is kind of what they're pushing for with some of these changes to tablets. It does seem like that's what they're going after. It's just making some of the other mechanics in the game be more interesting. They're also going to make it so that some of those other mechanics will just randomly be applied to maps as you're progressing through your Atlas. You open up a map and sometimes it'll just randomly have Breach or Expedition or a strong box or whatever in it. And, you know, that's pretty cool. Then that still gives you the ability to use tablets to guarantee that Breach or whatever mechanic you really like is in there, but you don't only get it if you use a Breach tablet. I think that's good for variety, keeping the game feeling like fun and interesting, but then kind of letting max level juicers specifically lock in on a single mechanic and really focus on that. There's some other good stuff in here too. Citadels, they've had their spawn rate increased by 66%. That's great news. Chilled Ground, Shocking Ground, Ignited Ground are going to cover way less ground than they did before, so that's a really good change. And then, you know, they said there's a bunch of other various improvements. And yeah, hopefully we'll be finding out more about this like early on next week and getting it hopefully around the middle toward maybe Thursday of next week. That would be pretty awesome. Alright, so that's the first half of the video. Now I want to kind of do the second half of the video here where I talk about just like a very quick version of how to juice up maps and towers the correct way in the current state of the game. Obviously, this information has a bit of a short expiration date on it. You know, it's going to not be super relevant next week, although I'm sure a lot of these principles will still apply. Some stuff may change, and we don't exactly know what. Alright, so let's start with just the basics. Where you get all of the stuff in your maps, for the most part, is rare monsters, and item rarity in PoE 2, unlike in PoE 1, will cause currency items to drop as a higher value currency item. So an Exalted Orb may drop as a Chaos Orb if you have enough rarity, or a Chaos Orb may drop as a Divine, or something like that. So there are a couple of sources of rarity. You can get it on gear. I have a fair amount. I have 81% on this character. There is no amount of rarity that's too much. There are diminishing returns on rarity on your character's gear. You also can get rarity as a bonus on your maps. So prior to patch 0.3, prefixes on maps in PoE 2 were like all upsides and suffixes were all downsides. Now all map mods are downsides, but then they give different bonuses. There are 4 of them: pack size, magic monsters, rare monsters, and item rarity. Item rarity is the best. Rare monsters is the second best, and then the other 2 are not nearly as good. And just as you can see, every time you add a map mod, you can see you get one of those 4 bonuses. This one's getting a decent amount of rarity. You know, it looks okay. So you do want to run all of your maps. If you can handle it, you want to run them all as 6 mods. That is better for getting more rewards. Now, there are a couple of things that you can do that'll really increase the amount of stuff that you get out of your maps, and one of those is to use these Preserved Vertebra. They cost about 2 exalts, maybe a little less, and you want to kind of use those on every single one of your maps. Ideally, you want to get them as prefix mods. So if a mod, or if a map rather, is at like 6 mods, like I'll just roll this one all the way up to 6, then you could still use a Preserved Vertebra on it. It'll just randomly remove one mod and then add that failed mod on there, and it added a prefix. Cool. So if you get to 5 mods and you have an empty prefix, you can just go ahead and slap a Vertebra on right away, and that'll guarantee a prefix. If you're at 5 mods and you only have an empty suffix, I think it's worth it to throw another Exalt on there and then hopefully use that Preserved Vertebra and get a prefix instead of a guaranteed suffix. So then once you've done that, you can go to the Well of Souls and unveil them. And the reason that prefix mods are good and suffix mods are bad is suffix mods can be all kinds of awful stuff. Things like this, Grasping Vines on Hit is really not one of the worst ones, but like a lot of the suffix mods can be really bad. Whereas the prefix mods all pertain to Abyss, and some of them can be very good or very valuable. Abyss is spawning extra monsters, you know, not a huge, like, not amazing, but not bad. Now, one tip that I have for when it comes to rolling maps is, unlike the way that I'm doing it here, instead of rolling like 2 of them at a time, I do think it is better to run like dozens and dozens, or roll up like 10 or 20 of them at a time. That'll definitely save you time, you know, especially with that animation of throwing stuff into the pit. This mod in particular, Abyss Pits and Area Always Have Rewards, is conceptually really good. Unfortunately, it is bugged based on like testing and feedback from other people. I'm still going to take it because maybe it'll get fixed next week, so I'm just going to kind of store all of the maps that I have that have this prefix on them in the hopes that it gets fixed in the future. So there is one prefix mod that is very, very, very valuable, and it's not this one. It is probably still in my Ange tab here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, and it's this one. Abysses have extra pits, and Abyss areas overrun by the Abyssal. So this is exactly the same mod as that like green circle that you'll see on some of the maps, you know, like this one. Areas overrun by the Abyssal. And groups of players will buy maps that have this for several annuls, maybe even up to a divine, depending on how well rolled the map is, and then they can, you know, run them and, like, whatever, destroy their hard drives and GPUs with how many monsters are in there. But yeah, you know, always check and make sure that you're not, like, grossly undercutting what something is worth, but, like, sell those rather than run them. You're almost guaranteed to make more money selling them to other players than you are to make running them yourself. Now, another thing you can do to juice up maps is use Liquid Paranoia Delirium Essences. This is the best one. It adds up to 45% increased rare monsters on your maps by slapping 3 of those onto each map. So those are really like the most cost-effective one. Like you can see I have 24% rare monsters, then I throw that on, and now it's 69. Nice. I do find Delirium a little annoying, so I don't always do it. It also does prevent Delirium Mirrors from spawning, and I kind of like Delirium Mirrors. I think they're a little underrated, so you know, you don't always have to do Delirium, but that is definitely a great option to add in to get a little bit more juice. Then when it comes to tablets, basically what you're looking for is you're looking to use tablets that have quantity as a prefix on them. They all are capable of it. The more quantity, the better. And then you just want them to overlap. And I could kind of show off some areas that I've bookmarked around the tree that have like 3 or 4 towers overlapping them. Here's one with 4 towers overlapping, 47% quantity of items in that area. As you can see, a laundry list of bonuses there. You know, but you're just basically looking for areas, at least for now, that have like 3 or 4 towers overlapping, like right here. This would be a really nice little valley. You want to put a bunch of quant tabs in and run those maps in those areas that have a lot of rarity on them. Now, something you could do to get even more rarity on your maps is, prior to desecrating them, you could use this Omen of Chaotic Rarity. You get the map up to 5 mods, use this, make sure it's active, then hit the map with a Chaos Orb. It will turn all the mods into item rarity mods, and then you can desecrate, and then hopefully get a good desecration mod out of it, and then get like 120 rarity on your map. And then you throw that into an area that has like 3 or 4 overlapping towers, and you might actually get like a handful of divines out of that map. I don't generally think that most of these omens are like worth using on anything except for a map that's either in like a very good 3-tower overlap area or like a really good 4-tower overlap area. Otherwise, they're pretty expensive. They're like 25 exalts each. Pretty costly. All right, that's mostly it. The only other thing I really want to point out is the Grand Project, which allows you to just kind of skip to anywhere inside that tower's radius. I used one on this tower. As you can see, it's allowing me to go to all of these maps, even ones that are not connected to one that I've run yet. There are also some special maps around the Atlas, like the Jade Isles, which will show up prior to doing the adjacent maps. That's not bookmarked in the right spot. It will show up looking like this, the Eye of the Storm. The Jade Isle is the only place that you could find Rakiata's Flow, the unique support gem that's worth like 19 or 20 divines a pop. And the way that you are able to get into this map is you do the adjacent maps, and then you click like a beacon at the end of the map, and then you'll be able to jump into this map. All of these sort of like special maps kind of function like this. And something that the Grand Design tablet does is it allows you to just completely ignore that. Like, you just pop a Grand Design tablet in, and this map right here, Derelict Mansion, that's another one that's like one of these special maps. I didn't have to do any adjacent maps. You can see I haven't done them, and I'm still able to do them. Another thing, and I'm not really sure how the Grand Design is going to work after the patch, and I'm definitely not sure how this tablet is going to work after the patch, is Visions of Paradise. This allows you to run maps a second time if they're irradiated instead of being completed when you complete them. It will just remove the irradiation. So there you go. It is possible to run a map multiple times, as it even says in the wiki here. If you use a tablet in a nearby tower to irradiate the map a second time after you've run it and removed the irradiation, you can actually run it again. Eventually that has a finite amount of uses. Don't know how that's going to work in post-patch, because right now the way this functions is you'd just be able to run the same map infinitely, and obviously that's not going to work, so there's going to be some sort of limitation, or maybe these will just all get destroyed or something. You know, I guess we'll find out. Then the final little bit of business I want to take care of here is just simply to mention that cleansed areas are really valuable. I've run all of the maps that had good cleansed implicits, but you can get like massive rarity bonuses out of them, or things like this Obelisks of Cleansing that will give you a very large rarity bonus as you're clearing throughout the map. There's another bonus, Mounting Greed, that can give you like 100% plus worth of item rarity as well. So there's a lot of really good value in doing all of these cleansed maps. The way that you unlock the cleansed maps is you clear the Nexus of Corruption in the middle, and then all the rest of the corrupted maps around the area will be turned into cleansed maps. The main valuable thing that you get out of cleansed maps, and you get this on all of them, is the area will contain 20 to 30 additional packs of cleansed monsters, and cleansed monsters can only drop currency, and they're also capable of dropping fracturing orbs, which are worth like a third of a divine each, something like that, these fracturing orbs. So they're worth quite a bit, and they're very useful for crafting as well, so good to have as many of those as you can get, really. Alright, now I'll just close by showing off 3 Atlas passive trees that we've kind of set up and been playing with. This is sort of the standard boring one with as much Waystone map mod effect as you can get. Not really my favorite, but it is definitely a very popular setup. You know, people like it. It will juice the amount of rarity you get out of your Waystones even more. This is an Essence setup where you're just dropping all of those little, like the small Waystone map mod effect nodes, and taking as much Essence, literally everything related to Essences, and then you do want to corrupt those Essences anytime you find them in a map, because there's a chance of getting the corrupted Essences like Essence of Horror, which are worth like 4 or 5 divines each, and obviously if you get those, that's going to be very rewarding. That's basically the reason to run Essences right now. Then the final setup, and one that is kind of a personal favorite, is instead of taking all of that Waystone mod effect, taking all of the bonuses toward pack size. You're just juicing pack size as hard as you possibly can, including through like Bountiful Bloodlines and Expanding Hordes, and getting a lot more magic monsters and a lot larger magic packs in your maps. And this is really good for farming XP. It's pretty good for currency. It's not as good as getting as much rarity as you can out of more Waystone map mod effect, or Waystone mod effect, but it is a little bit more fun. Probably not as good on your graphics card, but I like this setup quite a lot, and I've definitely gotten like some decent drops out of magic monsters, as well as the, standard lots of currency out of rares. Alright, there it is. That's it. That's what's coming in next week's big patch. Those are some fundamentals on how to make currency right now in PoE 2. And I think that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more PoE content, become a channel member, or come boost our Discord. Thanks for watching. Bye.